Alright, update on ADA. So, I made a video the other day and I said, in my opinion, your last line in the sand would be this previous low that we put down here on this wick, and we have strongly broke below it now. We've come up, retested it, and now in my opinion we're getting ready for a drop. So, the reason we said this is the last line in the sand is because we do have this inverse head and shoulders here. There's two different ways you can draw it. You can see the way that the chart has decided to draw it is, a trend line like this, which means that, the right shoulder would come all the way up here. But in my opinion, I thought that was a bit too extreme. I thought, in my personal perspective, I think something like that is much more valid, has more touch points, and a move to somewhere around about here would have been a decent move at least, or to the potential neckline up here for the inverse head and shoulders. Nonetheless, we can get rid of all that because we have broken below the inverse head and shoulders. If we come down to the 1 hourly, you can see this green line here is what we said this was our last line in the sand. In my opinion, it is about to get pretty ugly for ADA. Now, the reason why I think that is because we held the $1 region for so long, and this was the #1 place that we really needed to hold. If we come back to the daily, you can see this $1 has basically been support since we got over it. It was resistance here, and then once we finally got above it, it was support. We had touch points over here, supports all over this part here, and then if we do zoom in, you can see we've basically been hugging it since mid-January. So we've been hovering on this $1 for about 2 months now. In my opinion, it is very nasty that we have broken below it. My next target is 70 cents for ADA, and #1, I do think we are going to be coming down here. I think it's somewhat of a guarantee. Obviously nothing's guaranteed in crypto, but if I had to place a bet on it, I would be saying that we'd be coming down to this red box. Specifically, I think it's more likely we're going to meet the 1.618 target. If we do bottom round here, we could have a potential of reversing on the 786. But what gets interesting is, if we zoom out to the macro, once we break below the 786, there is really nothing else in the sand for us. I mean, I wouldn't even use this necessarily. I prefer the move all the way up here, because we did come and back test the 618 multiple times, and when we did break down, we were much above the 786, and we were above the 200-day. So in my opinion, this fib is the most valid. This is the one that I would put the most emphasis on, and it looks like we're basically hugging it. I mean, obviously we're not quite to it yet, it's still about 10% move away, but if we do look at this on the macro chart, we're basically at the 786. So what I want to outline is what happens once we drop below this 786, and what happens if we don't hold between 77 and 70. Well, once we lose 70, the only next place that we have down is this green box. So this is, a plethora of highs here, a couple of bounces on here, and if we zoom in as well, the bottom of this green box, I've got the bottom of this green box tied up to the 2.618, which predicts a Cardano price of 36 cents. So what I'm really saying is, if we don't bounce on this 70, which is basically a 10% move, if we drop below this, we're about to get chopped in half. There's no other way of saying it. There's no other way of looking at it. There is nowhere else for us to bounce. We basically had a straight line up. So I don't have a trading plan on this, but if we did have a VP or VPR, whatever it's called, the volume profile for the visible range, there's basically no volume around here at all. All of the volume would have been up here and down here, so we have literally no volume traded in this region over here. Because there's no volume traded here, there's nowhere to bounce, there's no Fibonacci targets, there's no Fibonacci retracement targets. I think we would be setting up for a 50% drop. So all in all, don't pay too much attention to that until we do break below 70. If we bounce from 70 or 77 and we have a strong impulse up, we can start talking about finally breaking macro bearish if we do get above this trend line. But until we do something like that, I am very bearish on ADA in the short term. And like I said, the second we drop below 70, we're probably going to get chopped in half. So that's pretty much all I see for Cardano. If you are holding it, best of luck. Once again, none of this is financial advice. This is just my opinion on the market, and you've always got to do what's best for you. Peace.